So good day, everybody. Jeff Jackson, the Forage Fanatic here. And today I have with me Jody Janes. Jody Janes works for SureTech Labs. And we're going to talk today about some forage testing and some great things that are going on in the forage testing world that might help you with your forages this year. So Jody Janes, please give us a quick introduction of what you do, where you're working.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. So I manage SureTech Labs, and SureTech is a Land O'Lakes owned lab. We actually are part of the Winfield United Division. We are located here in Indianapolis, Indiana, but we serve really the whole country. We get samples from all over the country. A lot of our member co-ops, part of the Winfield, but a lot of independent customers. We're definitely a commercial-facing lab. The lab did start in 1968, so it makes us one of the oldest labs around doing this kind of work. And we test, I always say we're a full service lab. So we test pretty much everything producers and growers would need to make and drive decisions on the farm. So soil testing, feed, forage, of course, what we're talking about today. We also do water testing. Think about water hardness, irrigation suitability testing, manure, fertilizer. So all of those things to kind of help drive decisions. We're a very high throughput lab. Through all of our sample types, we do well over 400,000 soil samples or any kind of sample a year, and really focusing on, quality data first and then quick turnaround times and just cost effectiveness to make sure we add value and can provide value to our customers.
So you had a really neat list of services provided. Now there's two things that I missed in there. Tissue sampling in season.
Tissue sampling, yes. We are sampling.
You're right. That's probably a big one for us at Winfield to do that. And the second one would be, help me understand, let's say a crop gets sprayed with something or there's a residue. Do you do any of the residue testing? And or if you don't, do you have an access where it can be passed through to get that done?
We don't do the residue testing. That's pretty specialized, but it takes some highly specialized equipment. But we do have some partner labs that we work with in the lab testing world that will do a pass-through. That way customers really just need to, work with us, have one account with us and not have to deal with other labs. So we can still offer that through one of our partner labs.
Right. And I felt that it was important just to talk about that really quick too, because there are times where you have that
problem solving.
What's going on?
Trying to problem solve. Yeah.
But
those are pretty expensive tests, and they take about a week to 7 days, 10 to 7 days to get back. So but sometimes they are very critical for problem solving.
But again, to your point, when you have a one-point contact where you can say, look, I work with these guys, I'm just going to get it there. Help me with the reporting and the billing, and let's just keep it simple for us as a customer so we're not outsourcing other entities. Yeah.
That's correct. Yep.
So that's really cool. And for us in the forage world, sampling is very important. And guys and gals, we don't need to just always focus on the forage aspect of it. But as Jody talked about just a second ago, everything we do starts with the dirt. So you can start with your soil tests, know where your base nutrients are at, help get I'm going to call it the building blocks set up underneath of that crop up front by utilizing SureTech to get the soil samples done. Again, maybe it's the water quality, some irrigation water testing, all that kind of stuff helps build the system underneath the forage that I help talk about every day in my daily ramblings about the Forage Fanatic and making cow chow. So I think that's a neat piece that we have, the full meal deal. The services are all there. Send anything in you need.
Yeah. And we have a lot of options for shipping. I know we're pretty centrally located. Indianapolis has got some great, we're a hub for FedEx. So we've got some great ways to get samples in and out. Even to our regional customers, we do sometimes offer courier services and things like that. So it's more like, if people are interested, just connect and we'll help you get it here. But we do take samples from across the country.
So that's a great thing to understand too. And I'm guessing that, so we're going to talk about forage testing here in just a moment as well. But as we start talking about how easy can we make it to do the sampling with SureTech Labs, you and I have worked on some little short pieces ourselves, but let's just walk through a little bit of that too, about how your systems are set up to help make it customer facing and easy for customers to do business at SureTech Labs with your favorite word, the QR code.
I am very into making things in QR codes these days. Yeah, I mean, I think what for us, it does start with making sure they have the right supplies to do the testing. So that's, a sampling bag that's appropriate, is the right kind of submission form, a box, even a box to ship it back in, because, we're all looking for those Amazon boxes or what can I ship this in? We give you a box to ship the samples back to us, and then we include a prepaid UPS label. And we cost share the shipping, so we'll pay for half. We'll ask the customers to pay for half. We think that's fair. And so all of that, if you scan, we've got a little QR code. If you scan that, you say, how many kits do I need? And it'll send you everything you need, with the exception of the hay probe, to do that kind of testing.
No, absolutely. I think that was really neat for us. So just for anybody that's watching this today too, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go, but we have a specific QR code set up for Croplan right now you scan that thing in, tell us your name, first name, last name, address, which kit do you want? How many kits do you want? Has 8 sample bags, 2 forms for 8 samples, the box, the label, the whole kit and caboodle. So it's really handy, nice. I'm not a caveman, but it's so simple a caveman could use it, right? So we'll go to the
simple. I would just say, don't fill out that QR code out the day before you need it. It does take just say a week to get some kits to you. So as we're getting into the harvesting and testing season, you want to get your kits now. Start ordering them soon, so you have them in your truck when you're out there and want to test.
So my boss has this word. It's called automagic. So the QR code is not automagic. It doesn't just appear in your box, but in a few days you will get your sampling kit to get some stuff sent in. So that's great. Now, forage sampling. Let's just go there. What are some of the biggest things that you see people using this big forage sampling for that are utilizing the SureTech lab today?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, it's just around forage quality, and we do a great NIR test. That's a standard method. And they're going to get the basics, the moisture, the protein, the ADF, NDF, the fiber. But then we also will run the RFQ test, the forage quality test as well. So you can kind of understand what your forage quality is. And I think, quality equals value, right? And value is what pays, whether that be through the animal nutrition and making that so the animals are producing at a high level, or if you're a hay seller, right? Quality equals value, and value pays. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's a valuable point, because you just hit on 2 things right there. So first of all, a livestock producer can use it for multiple reasons. Secondly, if they're working with a livestock nutritionist to help them balance rations or do something, the nutritionist can utilize that information. And thirdly, if you're a person that is not a livestock producer or have livestock on farm, but you're a commercial sales opportunity, that gives you a metric or some standards to value the product that you just produced. Again, we could do a whole nother segment on some of those parameters to value. And you mentioned RFQ. RFQ and RFV are 2 different sets of numbers. They basically have 2 different calibrations for how we're going to value and what that crop is worth. And so I'm wearing a Harvextra cap today. And as we talk about the value of Harvextra alfalfa and how we need to have an RFQ sample to measure digestibility versus just an RFV, which does not measure digestibility, you have those options on those sheets. It's a standard number. Actually, the team that I'm involved with helped up the calibration and the equation for a new sample test that everyone needs to be aware of and how we can use it. And it's basically a leaf to stem ratio, percentage leaf test, excuse me. But basically that's going to give you the percentage of leaves in your alfalfa sample. And what does that tell us? So that tells us, again, the ratio of leaf to stem. Generally, the standard number is about 50-50. So again, Jody, if you get your sample numbers back and it says that your leaf percentage is 50% or higher, or 40% or better, let's say, you're doing a pretty good job. If you're 60% leaves, holy smokes, you've got rocket fuel. And what are you doing to keep the stems out? I mean, that's the next question we have.
Right.
Then we go the other way and you say, here's how this is going to be utilized. And I may be jumping ahead of our conversation, but I get excited about how we can utilize it, because I will have people call me with a Harv Extra sample. I just bought some really high-tech seed, planted it, Jeff, got some samples back. I'm looking at this and my RFV is considerably lower than I expected. What's going on? Well, sorry, folks, but I'm not there to babysit all day long and say, oh, you cut it too late. Now it's too dry to rake it. You don't want to merge it today. Hold on, it's too dry. You don't want to be chopping it. You're going to lose all those leaves out the back. But we can look at these samples and go, okay, ADF is high, NDF is high. It's probably a pretty mature plant. Full plant moisture, boy, it was a little bit dry. If you're cutting silage at that moisture, and then down here we have this, percent leaves. Well, what percentage of the leaves did we lose or produce too much stem? And how did these things all relate back? And that's why our forage quality isn't what you expected it to be. So
right. Yeah. I mean, so percent leaf, or the leaf, if you think about it, accounts for about 75% of that RFQ number, or the variability in your forage quality. It's all back to leaf to stem ratio. And I read some numbers that said the RFQ value of the leaf is actually about 400. The RFQ value of just stems is 80. So you can kind of see how that's going to impact your overall quality. And so, I mean, this test is I think it's a great diagnostic. It's a great, I can kind of sit back and say, what happened? What operational changes do I need to make? How can I improve this next time?
Right, absolutely. So that's one of the things I wanted people to understand, is that we now have another tool in our toolbox called the leaf percent test. And that way, again, you can kind of follow the logic I just talked about and say, okay, the moisture was dry. And it makes people remember the operations that went into the process of getting that crop harvested too, because it's kind of interesting how you would say, were you a little bit behind on harvest? Yeah, we'd have liked to have been there 10 days earlier. Was it kind of dry when you got raked up? Well, yeah, the timing wasn't ideal, but we knew we had to get it done. So then you can have that conversation and walk back through. And even if you're a grower listening to this, and you can say, yeah, so you're right. When we were chopping haylage that day, there's this big green plume cloud around the wagon or the truck where we were blowing that hay into. Well, hate to tell you, Jody, but usually that plume around the top of the truck is not the stem. It's not the good stuff. It is the good stuff that's going over the back.
It's the good stuff. It's the good
then
stuff.
We've compromised our forage quality, and this can help us understand why maybe a field or that time of day. Again, we can probably even stamp some of these forage quality issues back to, was it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when it got too dry? Or what did the first part of that pile look like at 9 o'clock in the morning when we got started on that field? Again, another tool that is available at SureTech. I'm going to throw this out there right now. The CROPLAN brand is sponsoring a really neat program right now where we're going to help you access the sample kit with the QR code. We're going to have a promo code that you can put in the box, and we'll give you all some of this information that says CP Forage 2020 or 24. The promo code in there as well. I'll supply all this. But you also get the benefit of this new percent leaf test on the special cropland testing form for you to do your alfalfas this for the next 45 days. So by the time this gets aired, we're going to go from May 15th to July 1st, June 30th, and give you a 45-day window to utilize this new special program to get acquainted with it. You can still get the leaf percent test past that, but just as an intro, we're going to do a special promo with a little discount, get your sampling kits, and some of those pieces. So I wanted to talk about that leaf test first and what we can benefit, how that all mechanics work. I will include a link with the QR code and the tech sheet about that in this present and when we send it out to everybody. With that being said, we're also going to do a grass sample test promo this year as well. So I do a lot of forages with Cropland and Winfield United, and I work with sorghum Sudan grasses. I get a lot of questions on corn silage. I get a lot of questions now on these small grains and cereal grains. And guess what? they might have this magical thing called nitrates in them when we go through some stress periods or have an odd fertility issue in a field. And we are going to do what with nitrates this year, Jody?
Yeah, we're going to test them as part of this CROPLAN special testing that we're offering. So for the non-alfalfa samples that come in as part of this promo, we're going to add a nitrate test as part of that, which I think, again, it's, first of all, it's a good diagnostic. You can kind of look at, are you at a toxic level? And that will be reported. Our levels are going to be reported on the report. So you can see, kind of match where you're at on your nitrate levels to see if it's toxic and if you need to blend that or make some different changes.
Yeah, the solution to pollution's dilution. So then we can figure out what we need to blend with.
That's good.
So
Wonderful.
I'm excited about that because I think in the past or through channels where people can test forages, they don't generally get the nitrate test as a part of a general forage test.
It's generally not added to a standard test, right? This is going to be the special promo. It's not usually part of the standard for most labs.
So we are going to be special again.
You bet.
That's something I try to do anyway. I'm a special person. Just ask anybody that knows me very well. But yes, so you're going to send in your forage sample through the promo code, and the alfalfa samples go one direction and get the leaf percent. All the grass crops go the other direction and get the nitrate test included, and you'll get that in your reporting. Because, folks, it would blow your mind how many times I will talk to growers, producers. They'll call and ask, hey, what do you think the nitrate potential is of this crop? I'm almost ready to harvest. And my simple answer is always this: please, please, please send in a test.
Yeah.
Because without that test, the only other way we can figure it out is when you feed it. And when you have livestock issues, you're already past the stop sign, folks, and you're out into traffic and bad things can happen.
I don't know a lot of people that can look at a crop and say that this is the nitrate level. The only way to understand is through laboratory testing.
Rain Man's cousin, maybe.
Maybe.
No, folks, you can't just, you can hypothetically walk through the environmental conditions and go, sure, I think this is a hot crop.
I could be at risk, right? You think I could be at risk here.
But let's send in this sample. So first of all, you can kind of gauge what your crude protein is at that point. You can gauge what the digestibility is at that time frame. You'll find out your nitrate level. And so that would be, I'm saying you could even test that crop before you chop, before you harvest, before you cut. So if you need to make adjustments and raise the cutter bar to leave more nitrates in the field, you can do that ahead of time. So we're talking about a very small investment to find out if you need to manage your harvest differently as well. So you could get a sample done pre-harvest, take a look at protein, take a look at starch, see what your energy is. What's the RFQ, RFV, TDN look like today? Do we want to let it go 2 weeks or 2 days? I mean, so there's all this stuff that come into it. Now, if you don't get the test done ahead of time, not a big deal. Sample from the pile, sample from the bale, get that sent in prior to feed out. You can't fix it once it's in them, okay, guys? And just remember that in the beef market particularly, what is a baby calf worth today? 3 times what it was 2 years ago. I'm just saying. So, folks, that $30 sample was nothing at this point in time. So I just need you to understand the importance of getting it done, because we have too many phone calls where it didn't happen. Yeah. So anyway, there's a little bit of my rant, but I think that was fun to talk about how we can utilize some of these pieces, why they're important. You gain a window into your program.
Right.
It's all about the visibility. How good is my hay? How do I feed it? When do I feed it? Where do I feed it? Do I skip the pregnant cows and just go to the feed yard? I mean, those are some decisions that can be made with these types of samples. I'm excited to be part of the system, and the fact that we have this cool little promo that we're going to do this year with some special testing to get more people to use all the tools that are in that toolbox that we should be using.
Yep, good point.
So we will have, I'll get everybody the information on the QR code to order the samples. I'll get you some examples of what these test results might look like if you really want to see them ahead of time, which it's going to look like to some degree a standard forage test. It's going to have all the parameters, and you get your numbers as fed or as received, and here you go. So, Jody, anything else you want to throw in there from a discussion this morning?
No, again, I think I would just add, the quality of the sample taken in the field, right? If you're going up a bale, absolutely try to use those hay probes. If you don't have one, I know there's places online, or reach out to the lab. We can kind of direct you to where to buy one. Or if you're ahead of chopping or sampling or harvesting, make sure you're kind of pulling from multiple places, getting a good representative sample. So quality does start in the field. Make sure you understand how to take a good quality sample.
That would be very important. And I don't want to speak for every livestock nutritionist out there, but I do have the feeling that there are a large number of feed professionals that do have sampling tools.
That's fair.
So if you don't own a core sampler, the other thing would be is if you're going to grab a silage sample from the face of a bunker silo, please make sure that it's raked down and off to the side and you don't have a collapse and get underneath of a silage pile. Let's remember the safety parameters.
Very good point.
You're going into a stave silo or a harvest door. Make sure that the gas is out before you climb in the top and knock yourself out. All those kind of weird things can happen. So be safe, be smart, grab good samples. And when you do grab samples, you need to hold the sample like this instead of like that, so all the good shit falls out. It affect your sample quality. There are very good sampling tech sheets and papers that have been written. So if you want to go look at some of that, please do so. But to your point, you give us a bad sample, you're going to get bad results.
You're going to get bad results.
Absolutely. Garbage in, garbage out. So please try to maintain the integrity of that sample. Get them to the lab. Hope everybody has a successful harvest season with their forages and their cereals and grass crops.
Absolutely.
So with that, Jody, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate this opportunity for all the growers that we work with out there. And we look forward to seeing a bunch of samples through SureTech Labs in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah, maybe I'll come on and we'll talk about the promo at the end of it and see how we did.
I'll tell you what, let's plan to have a wrap-up call about this towards the end of the season, and we'll talk about some metrics on the number of samples that had good, bad, average, or we need to work on harvest management, some of those discussions.
Yeah, I think that'd be very interesting.
That'd be very good. So
good.
Thank you all. Forage Fanatic, wrapping up some cow chow discussion here today. Thank you and have a great day.